and the reversal, and to create imaginary mass. Imaginary technique. Hollow. Purple.
Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown is a 2024 action-adventure game developed by Ubisoft Montpellier, and it's the most recent Prince of Persia game, released over 14 years since the previous back in 2010. It's actually a spin-off from the main series and is more of a metroidvania style game this time, rather than the third-person action-adventure format we're used to. This received mixed opinions from fans and new players to the series, but positive praise from critics overall. Alongside this, we're not playing as the prince this time, and instead one of the Persian immortals, Sargon, as he journeys into Mount Qaf to search for a prince. The video is going to get into my thoughts about the game, including the comparisons not only to the games before it, but to other games it takes a fair chunk of inspiration from, including Hollow Knight and similar. I'll be telling you the full story of what happens in Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, so expect spoilers ahead.
30 years had passed. Decades without rain. The once fertile plains of Fars had become as barren as the Lut Salt Desert. A few arrow shots from Persepolis, the Kushans, bloodthirsty warriors from the east, were attacking Persia.
The game opens up to a bleak situation. It's been 30 years since King Darius died, there's been no rain, the plains are barren, and worse, the Kushans are attacking straight from Berserk. Led by General Uvishka, and he's stomping the Persian forces. Well, that is until the Persian Avengers come in.
The 7 immortals were the best warriors in the kingdom. One of them would become a legend.
The 7 immortals are a bit Marvelified. We play as Sargon, an immortal with twin blades, the newest member to the immortal troupe. Now, something I noticed early on in the game was that it felt rather corporate. It's something I don't want to comment on too much, but the immortals fit all the EDI requirements in an almost forced touch. The Persian elite, in this case, contains a full spectrum of characters, mostly not Persian. There's a Norseman, for God's sake. While this seems a bit hammy now, they do actually do a lot with the cast further into the game, so don't take it as a negative. The intro felt very Avengers Assemble, however, which I've seen many comments on. It all felt Disneyified and safe, rather than sharing the tone of the previous games. But it's a new take on the IP. Maybe not necessarily what the fans asked for, but we should hear it out. We don't own the prince. Unfortunately, Ubisoft does. Landing, the immortals are sent to attack Uvishka, and this game is a side-scrolling metroidvania with all the trappings you'd expect. Basic platforming and speed tech, though this does develop nicely as the game goes on. For combat, it's X to swing, and you have a variety of combos and the ability to parry attacks, which gives the combat a lovely flow to it. Similar to something like Sekiro. We can even counter certain parried attacks when enemies glow yellow to do a special damaging strike that has its own little cutaway animation. Something that must be complimented is the game's art style. It's incredibly stylized and they make good use of animations and even simple things like lighting and SFX to make the game look really spectacular. It's got this almost comic book look, anime style to it, and the game's unapologetic about this. It doesn't shy away from it. Characters Naruto jump in the background from screen to screen, and there's all this flair on the attacks. Well done, game.
The Russia bar, was it? Your life ends here.
Not if yours ends first.
When we eventually get to Uvishka, it's a boss fight with a man on a horse, and it's not really hard, but there's some nice touches, like being able to knock him off his horse. And the fact you could probably parry everything if you were better at the game than me. Taking him out, Sargon does this massive counter, catching a thrown spear and spinning it back at him. And while he might not be the Prince of old, I was actually quite happy with Sargon as an MC in this game. We get back home and Queen Foramis greets us to celebrate our victory in the safety of Persia. She tells us the Simorgh, a mythical bird protector, landed on her shoulder 30 years previous, marking her a worthy successor to the throne, and this is an important touch. With her divine guidance, she praises the immortals. We should probably cover a couple of them here. Foramis is the Queen of Persia, made such after King Darius' death by divine order of the Simorgh, or so she's just told us. Prince Hassan is her son, the heir and current Prince of Persia. We play as Sargon, the newest addition to the Immortals, a street rat of sorts, and really the most akin to the previous prince in the roster. The Immortals are led by Varham, who I can only describe as like a Persian Griffith. He recruited each member of the Mortals and is their Lion's Pride leader. They use a lot of different names from Persian, Iranian and Arabic history and mythology to build their own fanfiction here, and I appreciate they try to incorporate some of these elements to ground the game more in the area of the world. It definitely achieves the Persian angle that the other games missed the mark on, and you'll see that as we get into the game. After the Queen's greeting, we meet with our trainer Anahita, and she tells us the true story of what's occurring in Persia. We've won the battle, but not the war yet. Food's dwindling, people are dying, and the Kushans were only repelled, not exterminated. Our job will never be done. And when the fighting does eventually stop, what does a warrior find at the end of their blade?
Progress, and when there's nothing left in one's path...
What is at the end of my blade? I know.
Found an answer yet?
I won't figure that out tonight. Maybe a drink will help. You should join us.
Thanks, but I have other matters to attend to. You have what it takes to become one of the greatest, Sargon.
I know. Just watch me.
And listen to Varham. He will keep you on the right path.
We join the Immortals for a drink on the roof while we contemplate that. Orod, the Viking, Menolias, the archer, Neith, the Zulu, and Artaban, the scholar. There's actually two others, but they're swanning about elsewhere. We have a discussion about staying humble and discovering what's at the end of our blade, and this is one of the main struggles we'll overcome throughout the game, discovering what makes a true warrior. The between-the-lines stuff of this game I thought was also pretty good. It just stumbles over itself a few times later on, which we'll get to, but for now, emergency.
Varham! Prince Hassan has been kidnapped.
Kidnappers? They must still be in the palace.
Take the lead, Sargon. You may be the last to have spoken to him. We must find Prince Hassan.
Anahita's guards.
We fight our way back to the palace, unlocking our next ability as we do, the Afra Surge. You build up what is essentially mana by dealing damage and parrying, and when you do, you can build up to a big smash attack. There's a few of these throughout the game, but here's the first one. I really do like the Afra Surges in this game. They do make you feel powerful when you use them, and some of them do hit really hard. We fight ahead, and for whatever reason, Anahita, our trainer, has the prince on her horse all saddled up.
Anahita! What is this all about?
I wasn't planning on killing you, Sargon. Stay out of this.
Move out of my way. What the hell was that?
Still a child.
I'll find you, Hassan.
We go to chase after her and step on a glyph she put down, summoning some ghastly warrior out of the ether. It's called a Swordmaster, but it's more of a mini-boss and a tutorial. If an enemy's eyes glow red, we can't block their attack, so far we've got regular attacks, parries, and ones we have to dodge. With this tutorial we have the basic loop for all the combat in the game set up and ready to go. There's a few variations that get added later, but as a whole it'll be a lot more of this. We fail chasing her, though Queen Foramis orders the Immortals to go to Mount Qaf and chase after her son. It doesn't make sense exactly why she stole the prince, but Artaban has our exposition. The Simorg, a mighty bird guardian creature, can anoint the next king or queen, and he believes she's taken the prince to steal the Simorg's power, as the only way to do it requires a member of the royal family. The Simorg's gate doesn't open for anyone else. Qaf is a sacred mountain, and it used to be the site of King Darius' palace, and all the knowledge of the ancient world was centred there. Some cataclysmic event took place wiping it out, and there was no survivors allegedly. As we go further in, we see more troubling things. Floating statues. Time does not flow like a river here. In some areas, it's stopped entirely.
Stay sharp. Prince Hassan can't be far now.
Something is not right here. We must proceed with caution.
Sure, Menolias. You can scurry from shadow to shadow like frightened vermin.
I'm serious, Orod. There's a strange presence here.
I can feel it too. And there's only one way to find out.
Ha 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 ha! Let's go then.
They set the game up with this Avenger level squad, and the average returning Prince fan's probably thinking, ooh, I don't like that. But then things start to go wrong. Suddenly these people don't seem so busted when facing threats like time not working as it should. We see some actual emotive moments from the cast throughout the game, dealing with these struggles of being trapped somewhere, of time not flowing properly, and actually I think it was a good move. We see some soldiers from our palace, but they're all withered and decayed. They left minutes before us, but somehow they've been here for months. The doors close behind us, and we're stuck. Everyone clears out to find the prince. As we're left alone, some darkness animates the dead bodies around us. Some players reckon this is Ahriman's work, a dark spirit of Persian folklore. Either way, they're stronger than human enemies, and they hit like trucks. A lot of the combat in this game is fairly optional. In most cases, nothing stops you from running away to your next objective. You'll just forfeit extra time crystals, a currency used for all upgrades and items. We dash ahead, making good use of acrobatics to zip about until we encounter a golden shrub that transforms into a large glowing tree. There's a little girl present with it. Her name is Faraba. She knows her way around Mount Qaf and will actually sell us maps if we find her out in the wild. She's present in every zone, almost like the map vendor in Hollow Knight. You know, present in every zone and has the exact same function. Okay, Hollow Knight didn't invent metroidvanias, but it's worth bringing up these comparisons where relevant, as there's more than a few. Prince of Persia seemed to build on its predecessors, adding its own twist in some cases. For instance, Faraba gives us a tool for our map unique to this game, where we could take screenshots of an area and attach them directly to the map, allowing us to look back and remember what was blocking us, whether we needed a certain ability or if it was something else. It's very useful in terms of quality of life. Back on track while exploring the lower city of Qaf, eventually we'll encounter a purple vignette with a fractured statue and a little purple orb. Occasionally you'll encounter these orbs and you can smash them to rewind time in a localised area. In this case, restoring a statue we can then climb up and bring us closer to Prince Hassan.
Take the prince to the Simorg gate.
Anahita! Don't you dare harm him!
If you want Prince Hassan back, come and get him!
Anahita! Anahita was here. She's taking Hassan.
Then Artaban may be right about her wanting the throne. That thing above us.
Neith arrives as we watch Anahita get away again, and she points out an orb we can't destroy with our current tools. We'll need to head east and find our archer friend Menolias. His bow would easily reach it. As is the game type, there's an overarching loop of encounter a blockage, go somewhere else to find a tool and come back. En route we find a hub area with a mage merchant and Faraba, and she introduces us to charms. Little amulets we can equip to get boons or to switch abilities. Wait, this is almost like Hollow Knight's charms. Wait, exactly like Hollow Knight's charms. Okay, the actual abilities are different, but I'm still watching you, Ubisoft. Inside the hub area there's a blacksmith here, a deity called Kava, who can upgrade our tools and amulets. She's also overtly supernatural, which is something new for the series. We had the Sands of Time, sure, but never an actual goddess show up in front of us so up close and personal. They do really well with the supernatural elements in this game, just sprinkle them throughout. It does feel like an Arabian Nights type story. It's really cool. Head to the east, platforming as you go. There's aerial enemies here that make this fun while we're still stuck with melee only. En route, we'll find a prophecy room. Throughout Mount Qaf, there are these little sands of time pots that we could smash and they give us rewards back at the prophecy room. Firstly, spelling out some words we can't see, and secondly, dropping money or amulets. Almost like the grub pots you smash in Hollow Knight to return to a central room and get money or... Hey wait, this is a bit too close to just say it was inspired. The whole loop's exactly the same here, besides the prophecy angle, but let's move on. Blocking our way to the east is our first boss in Qaf. An Undead Prisoner, he uses this big column to swing at us. His moveset's fairly predictable, and he has one of these counters you can parry to blast him in this cool cinematic. The fight is very enjoyable, and I really do enjoy the combat in this game. It's definitely the best part. Rarely did it feel unfair, and even if you die in a boss room, you can replay it from the room, so there's no horrid death walks here. Good stuff, game. Nobody likes those. Beating the prisoner, we encounter the forests of Qaf, an area once beautiful that has been corrupted by an otherworldly presence that came in between the cracks in time and space. These otherworldly mushrooms have warped the gardens, and there's some fun platforming with shrooms and corrupted creatures that fight with a completely different cadence to the other enemies you've encountered so far. There's even a little side quest here where you can find a soldier who came to attack King Darius' empire 30 years ago, and he's been frozen here ever since with this warped flow of time. We can find a cannonball to free him, and in doing such he'll reveal some information. One, that he's seen us here before, and two, that this otherworldly creature's feeding off of the denizens of the forest. He couldn't have seen us here before because we just got here, but perhaps the different possibilities of Sargon are taking on lives of their own. Spoilers, they are. We encounter a giant boar here called Erlich, warped and spitting out purple goo. It's actually a ridiculously easy fight, given you're much more mobile than it. Slice away, and we encounter one of Sargon's alternate selves in a room behind it.
Menolias' bow. What's going on?
One with Menolias' bow. Perhaps the two had fought at some point. Regardless, we now have the means to shoot arrows and can use these to activate platforms we couldn't jump to previously. If we skip ahead and get as east as possible, we can find our companion Orod telling us he got split from Menolias. So maybe he did die. Jury's out right now, but either way, this place fucks with people's heads and perception. We need to get back to finding the prince.
Menolias, you're alive.
And that amazes you somehow?
I found your bow.
Different possibilities, all unfolding at the same time.
When we go to exit the forest, we do encounter Menolias, who shows us a second function of the bow, a chakram we can throw to activate cogs we'll find around. So it's more than just a combat item. Also, he's still alive. Sargon's obviously surprised to see he's alive, but Menolias is actually the one to confirm our hypothesis of split possibilities all converging at once. Dash back to the centre of the map, use your bow to lower yet another statue, and you'll notice throughout Qaf the game gives you exposition in many forms, either dialogue, collectibles, or actual just slate monoliths you can read. This one talks of Jahandar, a manticore Darius challenged to become king, and you can guess who our next boss is. Something to note with the main bosses is the game pulls no punches with how cinematic they are, in cutscenes and during combat itself. All of them get these Borderlands-esque intro sequences.
Heard that one before.
Jahandar might be the first challenge of the run. He's got a health bar to match his size, though luckily, a lot of his moves are very well telegraphed. We dispatch him in true anime style, getting a ton of loot and a health increase for our trouble. We also encounter a Feather of the Samorg. These are key items that give Sargon new powers related to time travel. The first is a dash ability we can use to fly horizontally a short distance when we're in the air, and it's really useful for crossing gaps or navigating some of the traps or even just dodging enemy attacks. Hey, that all rhymed. We encounter yet another immortal, Artaban. He's apparently been searching the mountain for 3 days, even though we just arrived with him minutes ago. We also encounter Anahita a few more times as we search through the city. Varham joins us for one section of combat too, and it's quite interesting. He tells us to head to the Samorg Gate. That's where Anahita will be taking him.
They must have gone up west. It's strange. It's a maze here, but I feel I've walked this path before.
Varham? Are you all right?
Yes, all is well. Here, take this. I don't want to lose anyone to the Samorg Gate. I'll meet you up there.
The forest was to the east, and we're heading west now through the Sacred Archives, a place where the knowledge of the ancient world was kept. Philosophy, medicine, and even magic. And some of the behind the scenes bits you can find just sneaking around. There's quite a lot of magic sneaking here. Each zone has its own unique feeling and general elements to it. The big thing with this zone is everyone's smarter than you and throws potions and elixirs at you because you're so dumb. There's also a jailer which stalks the halls, and I've heard it be compared to Emmy from Metroid Dread, but an improved version. I've never played Metroid Dread, so I wouldn't know, but it does look similar when I look at the clips. The jailer will stalk around and you're meant to stealthily avoid him. He's unkillable at this point, and if he spots you, he'll chase you throughout the room you're in. He's present in a few areas, but never leaves the room to chase you. Throughout the archives, the architecture steps up a notch, and the traps involve quite a bit more critical thinking to avoid. As expected, they all require the use of our new tools as well. One section for an optional reward here showcases some of the nuttiness. I must say, I did enjoy a lot of these sections, even if they did make me bash my head off the keyboard a few times. There's plenty of NPCs and side nooks and crannies that I won't cover in much detail for the sake of the video. One such is the Moon Gatherer though.
No. I was...
Stolen moon?
You're on your own journey. I see that. Thieves broke the moon. Thus, I have embarked on a journey.
Look up, friend.
I've merely an illusion.
His path runs pretty close to ours, and every zone you'll be going in for the main quest has a bit with him in it. He's trying to hunt down fragments of the true moon. Allegedly, thieves had stolen it from the sky and put a fake up there. He might also be insane, but his questline, again, does follow a similar route, so it's quite easy to do. Dash through the archives, have fun with the bell puzzles, and eventually our path will cross with the prince again, en route to the Samorg Gate, up in the upper city. Say what you want, but this game is beautiful, and I'm used to playing spreadsheet games and pixelated indie games, and I forget what a big studio can do with graphics.
Sargon, listen to me!
Hassan is coming with me.
Besides, Sargon, I'll deal with this.
Thank you, Varham. Anahita, please surrender. Varham?
No!
Hassan!
Anahita, what are you hiding?
Varham, in a big twist, stabs the prince and reveals he's after the crown. We dive in to save Anahita, and I've just got to let this cutscene play with Persian Griffith.
Anahita, get out of here! Why kill the prince?
Hassan was just a pawn. Don't you trust my judgment?
So you truly want the throne?
What will you do about it?
Exactly what you taught me.
Varham isn't actually that hard a fight, but he does have some fun little tactics. For one, he has some sort of time powers we don't, allowing him to go full Virgil and just slash about the place. He also stops us using our Afro Surge, instantly parrying it when we try to. It's a fun twist in these sort of games when stuff like that crops up, and it makes him seem dangerous. He's an expert swordsman who could read us better than we can read him, and eventually he does beat us, and well, it does end with style.
I can undo it all. The gods chose me. I am the rightful king. Accept it. You can still change your mind, Sargon.
He shows us he can rewind time and asks us to side with him, and when we choose not to, he just throws us deep underground. While we fall, our life flashes before our eyes and we learn Sargon's origin story. He's a stray dog who came to the Immortals to challenge Varham. He wanted to be known as the greatest warrior in Persia. The ensuing fight leaves us defeated, again, and recruited to his Immortals. In a similar vein, I guess, to how Griffith beat Guts and recruited him. Somehow surviving the fall, an old man throws our second sword to us, repeating Anahita's earlier question, what's at the end of our blade? Only he answers, in this case,
the ground.
telling us our anger has blinded us. He steals our map, and we're forced to chase after him through Definitely Not Deepness from Hollow Knight. That one was a joke. Controversial point, Hollow Knight didn't invent sewers. We actually encounter an alternate Sargon down here trying to grab our powers, and there's a variety of alternate Sargon fights spread about the map. One of them even has 2 Sargon attackers. The fun in them is fighting someone on equal standing to yourself, but with a different Afro Surge to use against you. You can steal these from them when you beat them. A fun little tidbit is that you can use your healing surge and it'll heal the other Sargon too, and why wouldn't it? We're the same person, right? Beat the alternate Sargon, and you can advance forward, getting another feather and one of the most unique abilities in the game. You can throw a shadow clone and tab back to it if you need to, allowing you to bypass traps you couldn't normally, or dodge attacks that fill the screen. It's a bit like Zed from League of Legends. It's very well implemented. The old man gives us back our map, telling us we need to go back in time. To do such, we have to meet with an ultimate evil trapped beneath Qaf in the Pit of Eternal Sands. To do such, we need to crack 2 seals that require abilities you don't have yet. One is in the forest, and one is in the archives. As we climb back out of the depths, we hear Varham telling the rest of the Immortals that we struck first, and what a sneaky little cat.
Sargon killed him.
Wow. What?
Varham, this sounds like not...
I can't believe it myself.
Where is Sargon now?
He fled with Anahita.
With the prince gone.
If there's anyone fit to lead, it's you, Varham.
What about Queen Tamiris?
Famine.
She's had 30 years to prove herself.
I am no leader without you. But together, we can restore Persia.
My bow is yours, Varham.
Huh? Yeah. Persia, people. But what about the kid?
I'm just going to quickly gloss over the next 2 bits. So, firstly, with the archive, it requires us to make full use of our new abilities to get to a new area in the zone, engaging in some unique time puzzles where we use 3 different repeats of Sargon to reach some hidden esoteric texts. These are pretty good, if not incredibly hard to think your way through. You do 4 of these and then you find another feather. Obviously, I'm glossing over a lot here. The archive's feather unlocks a power where if we press the right thumbstick, we hop into an alternate world, where any glowing crystal structures will switch from corporeal to ethereal, and vice versa. You can actually use this ability to fight the jailer in the archives now, as when you beat him conventionally, he hid in the other world. Though I'm 90% sure I forgot to record that fight, but it's nothing special. It unlocks a key into a jail beneath the archives for more loot and exposition. In the forest, we head to the far east to go for our second power. You have to go beneath the forest and climb your way up, and it's a bit more combat heavy but more of the same. The big challenge here isn't a puzzle but with the otherworld invader, Kiana.
Don't leave so soon. I'm always in need of new servants.
Her lore isn't really dipped into too much, which is a shame. She rides a giant direwolf and uses a spear against you. The fight has a few phase transitions, including you going into her world. The other points previously where I compared this game to Hollow Knight were almost jokey, but this boss actually just rips off the moveset of a boss in Hollow Knight during the Otherworld sections. I don't know whether this was intentional or not. I'll play them both here so you can make your comparisons. I could look past the other bits of inspiration, but this here was exceptionally glaring. Besides that, there's some cool combat with Kiana, including another sick counter where you make her hit the wolf using your time warp, so the fight isn't irredeemable. While you take her out, she fades into obscurity, ripped back out of this world. You'll also free the wolf she was dominating, so go team. It's actually Chamrosh, a mythical creature from Persian mythos that lived below the Soma tree, the background to this fight, so well done devs. I'm loving the influx of Persian mythos they mix in alongside their own creative freedom. This game's much more Persian than the rest of the series. It felt a little bit like Hollywood white guy Persian backdrop in the last few games. Sure, there was some nice Arabian Night storytelling, and it did feel like you're in a grand poem in a few of them, but I like the influx of the mythos and all these locations and figures from history. I'm sure the Persian fans really appreciated it a lot. We gained the dimensional claw power, allowing us to swipe enemies and items into a hidden rift which we can throw out later. Use it to throw bombs at walls mostly, but you can use it in fights to steal projectiles from enemies, which again I appreciated. The devs had introduced all these powers and actually built upon them. They're rarely useful in one area alone and seem to all have a combat application that the bosses make use of. A lot of players complain that the Mook enemy fights are different to the bosses to such a degree that you can't use what you learn from them. But I disagree. It was the same in all the Soulsborns where you used a lot more than you realised. I really can't compliment their combat design enough in this game. Take the powers and pop the cork to the sand prison. We have possibly my least favourite puzzles here as we navigate spiky outcroppings whilst using these sand geysers you can swim up. I hated them more for where they made you respawn. See, I'm not actually that good at this game, and if you touch a single spike it's back to the start of the puzzle every time. By God did it feel like a death walk. In the same vein, some of these traversals are actually really good when you're having fun getting past them. It's just the constant resets that I'm sure I'm not alone in having to face. Anyway, we've come down here to find an ancient evil who will take us to the past, and well, look at its intro. Azhdaha is a fun fight, shooting lasers and making you have to use all your powers here. It's a prime example of them making you use everything you've got. The dimensional claw counters one attack, the warp stops you getting lasered, and if you manage to counter the snake it looks powerful. In the flip side, if you flub the counter it looks just as cinematic. It's a really good fight. With the snake defeated, we're told to reach 4 different lookout points to shoot an arrow at 4 constellations. These guardians of the stars will be able to take us back in time. We also unlock a double jump. En route to the one top left of the map, we encounter Menolias, who's clearly drank the Kool-Aid. He's angry we betrayed Varham, even though we didn't, and he wants to help, well, we technically did, and he wants to help Varham secure the throne. Of course, it's no surprise he stops us as we go to find one of the constellations. Menolias is an immortal in his own right, and he's the first immortal we've fought besides Varham, the Arrow of Destiny, and he's an absolute monster to fight. I actually put him as the hardest fight in the game for me.
Menolias, lower your bow! Listen to me! Varham killed Hassan!
I won't believe anything you say.
How can you say that? Varham is betraying Persia!
We are warriors, so that one day others don't have to be. Varham is the king to end all wars.
A king would not kill his subjects. Help me stop him.
Varham has an ideal that is bigger than you and me. You're giving me no choice.
He told us earlier that a true warrior doesn't need a weapon, and he tries to show us that. His bow attacks are monstrous and most you can't counter. He also loves to jump around the arena. A popular strategy I've seen is actually just to stun lock him against one of the walls, doing some juggling with uppercuts. He's got a phase transition where he starts using melee, even entering a stance where he can counter us if we're not careful. We actually take him out with the same move, and it's just reminding me of Final Flash from Dragon Ball Z. In fact, a lot of these late game bosses tend to drive the anime dial-up completely. He believes us as we defeat him that we didn't betray the throne, and we move on with his counter stance, and the new ability of being able to warp to our chakra after we throw it. We can use this to get past fences or skip a lot of the shorter trap sections. The third constellation's in the upper right and is quite uneventful, with Anahita giving us a pep talk. It's the fourth that's most fun. We go through essentially a pirate themed area in the bottom right, avoiding traps and men jumping out of barrels. Orod meets us and comments if Varham was lying, why do we have Menolias' bow? He blames us for killing him, which he's not too wrong about. Alongside the pirate area is the sea itself, frozen in time, and he tells us to meet him out there. We'll fight with a cool backdrop. It's really cool visually, with all these undead sailors, mermaids and jellyfish in our way. There's even an attack one of the sailors can do that tries to drag you under. The graphics are still superb, not just early on but throughout the game consistently, and they actually seem to improve the further you go in, getting more garish and out there. They come up with some really cool and unique set pieces that, with this one, I've just not seen it anywhere else. The fight with Orod takes place on a ship out at sea, fitting for a Viking, I guess.
Not bad, kid. You managed to get here. A fight between two immortals, and no one to see it.
Let's get this over with.
I, Orod, the Storm Master, challenge Sargon, the Betrayer! Show me the true spirit of the Rashomon!
He challenges us to a duel and we face our second immortal, Orod the Storm Master. He's a rough fight but seems to fight more conventionally than our archer friend did. The only way to describe him is he fights fair. He wields a giant polearm made out of 2 anchors, which he then splits into twin chain anchors, and the visuals just go crazy. It's like fighting a WoW raid boss. If he catches you in certain attacks, it gets even wilder. we use his whirlwind attack against him to actually finish the fight. I played a few metroidvanias in my time, and rarely have I had such fun in the combat as with these fights. They're all wicked fun, cinematic and thought-provoking, almost like a puzzle at times. He praises us for beating him and eventually learns we didn't kill Hassan, giving us advice of not fighting the current but instead learning to sail through the high winds, and he's gone. We get our 4th consolation, head to the observatory, and we go back in time to fight against Varham.
Two of you. Let me guess. You found some of those feathers.
Varham 2 sheds some light on the powers of the Simorgh. Mostly that they aren't meant for human use. They drive men mad if used for too long, and he takes out Anahita, dropping some absolute flames as he does. We then fight him with the assistance of ourself in the past, and it's a rather cool way to rehash the fight. He comes with some new moves, including slowing down time or slashing across the screen, filling it with slashes you need to expertly dodge. Time gets a bit messed up as we finish the fight.
My son, you will earn the Simorgh's blessing. Then, as per tradition, I will reveal your regnal name. O mighty Simorgh, protector of our people, I, Darius, have come to present to you my son. Should you deem him worthy, he shall one day become king.
The reign of the House of Darius is over.
Tomiris? What is this? Tomiris! No! Live. Varham. You must live. Oh.
We then learn the truth about Varham, the Queen, and the murder of King Darius. We're told by Hassan we need to go to the Tower of Silence, the burial place of kings, to get a key to the Simorgh's lair. It's where Varham's probably gone anyway. We unlock a cool new grapple power and head over. At this point, you can also travel between rest points, so the world's your oyster to explore. Tidy up any loose ends and then head over. The Tower of Silence is a big frozen climb with all this magical shit and undead fuckery lying around. A spirit on one of the whack trees I forgot they were called that for a second, claims some of the monsters are men possessed by demons. And you know, I wouldn't have guessed. Everything ramps up, the combat, the climbing, until you reach a door for yet another fight. Ring 3 bells in the area and you can enter the tomb of King Darius, the peak of the Tower of Silence, where the vultures would tear the envelope housing his soul away so that he might pass on in peace. Of course, spoilers, he doesn't.
You will find me again.
I smell the blood of a traitor.
King Darius.
Some cross between Arthas and Martyr Ligarius gets up, smelling the blood of a traitor on us. Wielding Frostmourne, the King of Kings goes to fight us, and he's huge. We have to grapple about and dodge a lot of his attacks as they fill the screen. This is the first fight where I think the implementation of a new mechanic actually made it slightly weaker. I think their reliance on forcing the grappling hook into this fight made it the focus of the fight, and it does underbake it a bit. Of course, the fact this resurrected figure of legend is absolutely whomping us with magic does make up for that. Halfway through the fight he gained fire powers too, and we hit pure anime status, facing off against King Todoroki himself. There's one attack that whenever he did it I was just in awe. I mean, look. There's a lot going on at all times, but this boss fight, I mean, the boss fights in this game in general are just amazing. He even pulls a Gojo out at one point, hence the intro scene to this video. When you do eventually take him out, he's happy his soul's free, and he just wishes we could save his son. Then the true finale begins. As we head through a little enemy rush of self-locking rooms up to the Simorg's lair, a test of all your minion combat for the players that have been asking for it, we walk in on Varham as he's decided to imbibe the heart of the Simorg to become a god and rewrite the world. We tell him no human's meant to wield this power, and he claims he's not human. He's no mere mortal. He's the first immortal.
No mere mortal. I am the first immortal.
That if he doesn't do this, he's foreseen the kingdom will be engulfed in flames, corrupted and lost to the ages. And it really shows Varham isn't that much of a bad guy. Like, he does do some backstabbery, but he is a fucked up kid who's a product of his upbringing, of the powers of the Simorg being with him for years and the fear that his nation would be lost if he did nothing. It's been going to shit for the last 30 years, and that's been reiterated to us throughout. This isn't without warrant. Varham wants to reset it all, and he absorbs the heart, shattering the mountain and all around it, leaving nothing but the void.
Perfect empire. Varham! Varham, no! You should have joined me instead, Sargon.
Varham destroyed everything. Mount Qaf, Persepolis. There is nothing left. No immortals. No one.
The Simorg appears, saying this has happened before and we can stop this. It gives us our Disney pep talk to absorb our alternate selves and that we need to accept the universe. Become the universe even. A wise man does not need an enemy, and then we realise Varham isn't our enemy. There probably is still time to save him. We just need to go fight a god. Varham's looking like the Vizier in Two Thrones, all golden and wingy as he appears before us. And we have to use the sword where diplomacy just won't work. I saw a lot of people on Reddit call this a hard fight, but compared to even normal Varham, it's possibly the easiest boss of the second half of the game. You mulch his health bar and it's not a big one either. When you take him out, you try to remove the Simorg heart from the equation, and then of course he rewinds time to start the fight, this time drawing a sword. Rinse and repeat. This is just the same fight with a new parryable moveset. And then it gets rewound again, and you fight two Varhams at once. They fight almost with no strategy, so again it's not a hard fight at all, but it's so cool. We take him out, and then use the power of the slain immortals in a bit too Marvel for my liking-ish finish to the final fight.
Love to sail by witness, Kiana.
True warrior needs no weapon.
It's your actions that matter.
Then I wish to be where we immortals are friends again.
Varham sacrifices himself to shut the void and we return home with the prince. Prince Hassan puts the crown on, refusing the position as king, after what he's learned about his mother's murder of King Darius. The Simorg is back and is protecting Persia, so at least that's a thing. We reveal what we knew, that the queen killed Darius, drop the mic and then leave. There's this rather comical scene where we see the old man mentor figure in the form of a bird sitting next to us. And then, in an after credit scene, we see that Varham's returned, but in a child form. Neef's looking after him, and we ride out into the sunset for real this time. So, what did I think? Recording this feels like my lengthiest conclusion, so let's break it down here. Graphics and audio are a highlight for me here. The environments, the combat animations, and all the cool little anime cutaway graphics are great. They were really engaging, and I felt like some force of nature carving my way through Mount Qaf. Nothing really jumped out at me as amazing in the soundtrack, but I think I was a bit too focused on the fights themselves. I just got tunnel vision. The boss themes do convey a sense of awe listening to them back, but really I've got no comment on the music. I'd say it's a 9 out of 10 for the graphics. Gameplay wise, the combat again shined for me. It was a very tight system of attacks, parries and dodges, with most boss fights considering what abilities you had access to and including them somewhere in their moveset. The traps and puzzles again did similar. There wasn't an ability I didn't feel like I got mileage for, and I never felt unfairly treated in the combat. Some of the trap design did suck ass, which was a shame, when on the flip side, a lot of the traps were very well designed. The movement around the overworld was fluid, and they added some nice quality of life features, such as in-game screenshots for blocked areas, or an optional guided map mode if you're a scrub like me and want to follow quest markers, so 9 out of 10 for gameplay. The story was quite enjoyable, with a variety of optional exposition dumps in the form of hidden text logs, collectibles, and a prophecy you can unfold. The prophecy actually saying that the prince is a prince. Varham had a child that got swapped at birth, and we believe it to be Sargon. So we were playing a Prince of Persia. It just isn't relevant at all to the plot. All the exposition helped to supplement the story being told through Sargon and the other characters. There was some good environmental storytelling in the forest and the archive specifically, but not a whole lot I picked up on elsewhere. The villain was a great villain. The true villain, not so much. We got like one dump that the Queen was a bad person and that's it. When she got called out, nothing happens after either. The ending felt a little bit too clean for me. Parts of this game do have a corporate cleanliness to them that I'm not personally a fan of, but many players may think is amazing. I didn't like the resolution to the plot, and I felt like a bit of wind was taken out of my sails. Like, I earned a good ending, didn't I? I gave the story a 6 out of 10. The inspiration, shall we call it, from other metroidvanias, I think is slightly unavoidable. It's not that expansive of a genre, and they're all simultaneously trying to make the best product. For the most part, a lot of them play very similarly or have some shared elements. The amulet system was very similar to Hollow Knight or even Ori 2, but how else do you put perks and RPG elements in without, adding an equipment system? If someone found the best way, I can see why you'd use it again. There's a reason a lot of FPS games all play similarly, The map merchant again was a bit of a copy, but the map operated differently enough to Hollow Knight that I let it slide. The map's much more useful in this game. The boss fights with the same moveset as the Battle Sisters from Hollow Knight was a bit inexcusable for me. It's clear it was a direct rip, whether intentional or not. I think where the game did borrow elements from other games, it did improve on them. It's a very polished game and I did enjoy playing it. Even the busy work of looking for secret stuff, which is probably one of my favourite bits of these games. I'll probably replay it on a harder difficulty. It was a good game overall. For transparency's sake too, I have to mention it does use Ubisoft Connect with their DRM, which might not impact the average player, but is a negative in a lot of people's books. Overall, the game is an 8 out of 10 for me. The gameplay and graphical fidelity outweigh some of the shortcomings of the story, and it's a worthy title amongst its competitors. Good job, Ubisoft. Over and out, Smooth Brains.
No, don't. I need you alive.